Go ahead and take it off mute, guys. So just to let you know that we are live streaming and off mute, and the meeting will start in a couple minutes. I do want to go ahead and do an audio check. So anyone online, I see Sheila just popped on. Maybe Sheila or Aaron. Can you guys hear us okay on Zoom?
Yep, I hear you fine.
Wonderful. Thanks. And I hear you. Thank you.
I can hear you fine.
Thank you.
Can you hear me, Amy?
What was that?
Can you hear me? Thought you were teasing when you said, what was that?
Oh, I will. What'd you say?
Told you, I'm on record at the STB. It's being soft-spoken.
We need to audit that record.
It really is in there. It really is in there. I told you, it was a deposition with about 100 people there.
So the others just drowned you out?
No, they were all lined up to ask me questions.
Well, good morning, everyone. I have 10:30. We'll call this meeting to order. I want to start by wishing everybody a happy holiday season. I hope that everyone is prepared. My guess is maybe not yet, but I hope you have a really wonderful season, well-deserved little respite and break. Just a few reminders, as is tradition when we start our meetings, please state your name before speaking so those listening know who you are. Those not on the committee or speaking, if you are joining us virtually, please keep your cameras off and your microphones muted. Amy will monitor the Zoom's chat in case there is a question or a comment that you'd like to make. Members, you may choose to ask me for recognition if you'd like to speak, but as a reminder, I'm just also comfortable with you just jumping in if you have that question. And we're being live streamed for the public on the KBOR's YouTube channel. So I'd like to start this morning with a celebration of an extraordinary person who has done so much over time to help the academic affairs keep moving forward. Amy Robinson, thank you for your service and real excited for your new opportunity and wanted to give you an opportunity to share some thoughts.
Thank you, Regent Lane. I am going to be moving over to the Department of Labor and assisting some directors over there. And very excited about the opportunity in the future, but I'm going to miss you guys all very much so. Been through a couple of boards now and almost 5 years at the Board of Regents as staff. And so it's been a great time and I really appreciate it. And I'm really excited to continue to watch what you guys continue to do for initiatives for our students in Kansas.
Thank you for your work. Now we'll have another celebration a little bit later, so team, help me make sure that I don't blow past that when Provost Tabor joins us a little bit later. So with that, I think we're ready to call the roll.
So Regent Lane,
Present.
Regent Mendoza,
Present.
Regent Ice,
I'm here.
Regent Johnston.
Here.
Thank you. And then we do have presenters. Do we have Sharon Kibbe?
Here.
Thank you. Brent Thomas.
Present.
Thank you. Jill Arensdorf. Chuck Tabor. Chuck's around. And then also Sam Christie Dangermond.
Here.
And Carla Wiscombe will be joining us as well in a moment. And that completes roll call.
Thank you very much, Amy. Now we are moving to approval of minutes and be willing to open for discussion or accept a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second. All right, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, minutes have passed. Amy, you can hand that job off to someone else now. So, thank you. All right, we're now ready to revisit the performance report and consider the case for higher level of funding for Highland Community College. I know they put a lot of work into getting prepared for today. So Sam, any opening comments before we hand it to Sharon?
Sure, just a reminder, Highland currently qualifies for no new funding. But because of policy change, or I should say a change to the guidelines made a few years ago, they are eligible to request to move up more than one level of funding. So Highland has chosen 3 of their indicators on their performance report, and they presented on that last time BASC met. This was tabled so that Highland could bring back additional information. And so again, they're using 3 of their current indicators to make a case to move up to the 100% funding level. So I'm gonna let VP Kibbe go ahead and share Highland's information.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for allowing the flexibility of Zoom attendance. I've been proctoring some finals here on our campus because we've had faculty members out sick, so I'm kind of coming and going. So I'm appreciative for the digital continuation. And Amy, thank you as well for all you've done. I know you've answered some of my interesting questions over the years, so I appreciate that. And I wish you the best in your new role. Well, Regis, thank you for allowing us to come back and present additional information to you. The information that you received that came out in a separate email that Amy, I believe, had forwarded is a collaboration from multiple parts of our institution. President Fox is on this call with us today. She is muted and has her camera off because she's off campus today for another obligation, but she is available should you have additional questions. So the information you have in front of you, I am going to run through that background and the additional data. And then if you have questions at any time, please ask or throw them in whenever whenever they come to mind. So specifically in our presentation of our performance report, the initial conversation revolved around that employed and transferred number in Kansas. And the original case we made for that in our performance report was because of our location that we do, especially our Atchison, our technical center, is located very, very close, less than 5 miles from the Missouri border. And then we have another location, 2 locations actually, our Western Center and then Highland, that are located very close to the Nebraska border. In addition, we do have in our Highland campus, even though we only account for 20% of the overall student population, 32% of the degrees are awarded out of Highland at the Highland campus. And we do have a significant number of students that do come to us from out of state. So they would not be represented in that transfer number because they're going out of Kansas, obviously. But our goal is with all institutions here in the state, we want to keep our students in Kansas, but we also want to make sure that they're achieving their goals. And sometimes that is back in their home state. So hitting the highlights of what I submitted as the background. At the time of reporting, which was June 2023, when that report was submitted, HCC met 1 indicator out of 6. However, shortly after that reporting date, we were made aware of our current NCLEX pass rates, which is indicator number 5 on our performance rate, that resulted in us exceeding indicator number 5 at a level that exceeds all of our reported trends since 2013. Our nursing department has done an excellent job with that. Right now, our RN pass rate is 100% and our PN pass rate is at 95. So that puts us at exceeding 2 indicators, if you count that information in. We also included in that request on indicator 2 to move to the next funding tier, noting the recognition of 13 additional students would raise the number 2 indicator for students employed or transferred in Kansas, would have risen us to that baseline of 57.8. And so we made that case based on our location. And as long as I am aware we have always had a case on that indicator for that reason, if we have fallen below that number because of our location, because we do have students transferring in and out of the state. Part of that information, I did some research into your request of this information allowed me to touch a lot of other people and get information. And one of those was that indicator number 2 comes from Department of Labor data. That data may be incomplete as provided. for what we're pulling from, because not all employers report the information to the Department of Labor data. And you'll see later in this report, our performance report has one number on it for the total number of students, but you'll see in the numbers that I provided based on our institutional follow-up, we exceed that number as well. So we have a concern that the data that's provided for that indicator is also incomplete. So we're also presenting that as a case. So if you choose to accept the argument for both of those indicators with the nursing and with the Department of Labor data, that puts us at 90% of new funding. And as a group, we also feel it's important to note that all other institutions that presented their performance report at the previous BAS meeting were approved for 100% of new funding. And of those institutions, 2 of them, when they presented, had only 2 up arrows on their indicators. They made their cases and were also approved for 100% funding at the time of discussion. So specific with that additional data, our Atchison Center, our technical center, is located less than 5 miles from the Kansas-Missouri state line. And we know that the demand for technical skill sets in Kansas, which is where we want our students to stay, but also has a very high demand across the country. Given our quality programs, our students are often recruited across state lines. Many of the companies in our individual follow-up, and you'll see in those numbers later in the report, some of those students are employed by companies that may have locations in Kansas, but they are multi-state, nationwide, and in some cases international. So while they may have initially been recruited by a company in Kansas, they are not working in Kansas. So they are moving outside of the state. There's information in there about our Kansas Promise funds. We have maximized that every year. That has been truly a gift to our Kansas students and for them to be able to access that funding. And it is interesting to note, and I did add that at one of our recruiting fairs, one of our open houses, we had a company come to our Atchison location that came out of Missouri, held an open house for our students. And we had a student report to us that the company was talking to them about coming to work for them. They said, I've received Kansas Promise funds. These are my restrictions. And that company said, we will pay that for you if you leave the state. They will cover that. So that's just one student, but I don't doubt that other students are receiving that same offer as well when we look at those high demand positions. In the report, you'll see the information about our Kansas Promise Act. I mentioned the information about the degree service. So 32% of our total degrees come out of our Highland campus, and many of those students are out-of-state students when they come to us. Now, some additional meat in here, which I think will specifically answer the questions about how we were working or are working with Kansas companies. There seemed to be some concern that we were not actively recruiting nor working with Kansas companies for placement for our students. So the information that we pulled this from is all from term year 2022. And I do want to add that in the data that's pulled, when I was looking into how that data is gathered, when we have a student, when any institution has a student that is retained in the same institution, so they've completed a certificate, they've done a Cert A, Cert B, they've done their LPN, they're staying to move on to RN, those students are not counted in those numbers for that transfer or employment. And we do have students that fall into that. And remember, we're only looking at 13 students in that indicator to make that number. So those students that are staying on potentially fill part of that bucket. So you'll see in there that employed in Kansas, and this is based on our survey, our staff calls all the students that graduate, leaves messages, emails, text messages, follows up with them to find out the success they've had after they've left Highland. Employed in Kansas was 274, employed out of state 28, employed state not identified. So the student has reported maybe in a voicemail back that, yes, I have a job working in my field, but they have not told us what state they're employed in. Unknown status is 281. So people that have, students that have been with us for a certificate, CNA, CMA, up to those that have finished 1- and 2-year degrees. We have an unknown status. And these are students that are tied to those technical programs. So we're looking specifically at those programs really that are coming out of that Atchison location. And so our total students surveyed is 730 for that 2022 timeframe. Diesel and allied health were noted as certificate in area degrees in which students are recruited and hired out of state. Based on the current numbers we had for students that actually reported that we had the information, Diesel had 15 employed in Kansas, 1 employed in Missouri, 26 of unknown or military connection, and 29 continuing education. Some of those at HCC, some of those at other locations. But again, if we're not counting those students that are staying on in that pool, that's an important number to look at. For allied health, so PN, RN, MOA, CNA, 107 employed in Kansas, 4 in Missouri, 1 in Nebraska, 267 of unknown military status, and 24 transfer or continuing education. And then beyond that, you'll see, because it was a specific request of how we are working with our companies in Kansas, you'll see multiple pages of partnerships that we have with companies, and this comes from recruiting events, companies coming to us wanting to hold open houses, career fairs, hanging up posters. They send us information and say, we need employees, so we're helping them recruit with that information. Us working with them as we are talking to industry about what they need to fulfill certain roles. We just had a discussion with an employer yesterday that asked specifically about a degree in food processing, an associate's degree that would fit within that technical area. So that's part of us reaching out to see what our state needs, because we do want to support them. And I'll stand for questions if you have anything specific or additional you'd like to know.
Thank you very much, Sharon, and I want to express my appreciation for the additional work and information, and congratulations on the additional data that is showing you're moving in a positive direction. Want to ask Regent Mendoza to begin first with any questions or comments, since our tabling, it resulted from your question last time.
So again, to reiterate what Regent Lane said, I appreciate you guys looking into the data and doing all the research for us, specifically for the question that I had brought up. I guess my initial concern was with the way that the indicator read with students staying in Kansas. I completely agree with your comment that, we want our students to be successful and move on from the institution and wherever that may be that they find success. So I agree with that. I was just concerned with it specifically stating Kansas in the indicator. However, I appreciate all of the information, the list of businesses that you're working with in Kansas. So the extra work that you guys put into this really helped me understand and see the bigger picture. So I appreciate that. And I can see that you guys are working toward the success of your students. So
Thank you.
I don't have any questions.
Thank you very much, Regent Mendoza. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I'd be glad to entertain a motion.
I would move to approve 100% funding.
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All right. Congratulations. And again, Sharon, thank you and your team for the great work. And I want to just, I'd like to express my appreciation to all the institutions as we are really at a momentous moment here with performance agreements. Sam, am I correct that we are now complete with this cycle as we're celebrating? And we can be very mindful of the fact that this process is sunsetting as we make our decisions. And I know that's been top of mind for me. I believe it others, but we should also be celebrating the institution's highly focused work, maybe not always achieving the results anticipated, but never giving up and continuing to move forward. So I just want to take this opportunity to thank all the institutions for your work on the performance agreements. And now we can move forward looking toward our new performance agreements that are based on projects. So in that vein, later on the agenda, Dr. Wiscombe is going to remind us of that new process and where we're headed. But today, let's just all take a moment to say, well done. We learned a lot on an ever evolving target, as I've learned is looking back, and made some important improvements in our institutions and also identified some gaps in the data that we're collecting. And Sharon did a great job of continuing to point out that when we are on, have institutions on borders, oftentimes keeping students in Kansas is
I think it's a good process and really appreciate questions and opportunities to clarify. And I appreciate board staff's effort to put all of this together as a small task.
Any other comments? All right, thank you so much. I think we should applaud. We finished that process. We're moving forward. One last comment. I appreciate the tolerance from our virtual meeting for me. I was really stuck on movement, and it was helpful to have the institutions and Sam remind me of the policy and the processes so we could move forward. So I think now, related to that, it's important that we join together to advocate with our legislative body to increase funding so we can continue to have support for the new initiatives as we go forward. Next on our agenda is another significant day in my mind as we've been working on a Pillar 1 dashboard, the foundational metrics, which are our lagging metrics, and today starting to talk about some of our support metrics, which are our leading metrics. So moving forward, we'll try to do these reports once a quarter so that each university can bring forward their progress on the support metrics. This is not meant to be a long drawn out update with lots of detail. What it's meant to do is focus on actions. So we will ask you to share the data briefly and any insight into that data on the support metrics, and then talk about what actions you're going to do over the next quarter to improve results. I'm hoping that 5 minutes will be sufficient for those updates because they're really meant to be rapid moments to talk data and action together, and that you won't find them overly burdensome. Just opportunity to really celebrate the things that are working well and to talk to us about the things that are challenging. To begin, we decided to have 3 of the universities start today and 3 more will go in January, and then the next report for everyone won't be due until the end of the quarter after the first of the year. So we'll talk more, Provost, about that process. I know we were trying to get a meeting scheduled so we could really have a more informed discussion about that. I did have a chance to talk to Provost Tabor, and I want to give him all due credit that he thought once a quarter would be sufficient in order for you to bring back results of your actions and to show progress. So with that, we're going to start off with Provost Thomas and Emporia. Provost Thomas, is it helpful for you to have a timer, or would that be a distraction? So want you to be able to model kind of that 5-minute process. What does your data say? What are the actions you're taking? So
All right. Well,
timer up.
no need for a timer. I'm a firm believer in the 3 B's of public speaking. Be sincere, be brief, and be seated.
All right, well done.
I only have just a few brief updates to provide on this. We have moved as an institution and implemented centralized advising across for undergraduates across the entire campus. We did that last fall. And of course, when you implement something new, it does take a little time to work out some of the kinks and the bugs in the system, but things are going well, and that remains in motion. So we have moved on that and implemented. Many of the metrics that we're being asked to report, we already have mechanisms in place to track those and are already tracking them. There's a few others that I want to maybe get back in touch with you and others to just go through a few questions about exactly what it is that is needed. And then the EAB Navigator IT and other folks as part of our team have built out a timeline for implementation on that, and we're scheduled to have everything in place and implemented by summer of 2024.
Thank you very much, Brent, for that report. So it sounds like some clarity is needed on gathering the data on some of the indicators. So do you have information that would tell us about the students accessing supports, the numbers of DFWs by content, or is that data yet to be collected?
Those are data that we can collect and provide. I did not collect that data to have ready for today. If that was part of the assignment for I missed it I didn't realize this was a data report. I thought it was a update on progress report.
Okay, well
My
said.
apologies.
No need to apologize, because once we have the EAB system in place, this is gonna be a lot easier for the campuses. So today, really, just consider today sharing what information data you have and what actions you're doing moving forward. So thanks so much. Any questions for Provost Thomas? All right, thanks for being our leadoff hitter. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Provost Arnsdorf.
I have a handout. Thank you. I don't think I have enough for the room,
Thank you
so
very much.
extras, I'm happy to share those with you. Okay, great, thank you. Bet. Give you my copy when you finish, Amy. Handouts.
Oh, you got a
No,
pretty?
there's two handouts per person. So, I too did not understand we were presenting data today, so I'm providing just a brief update on our progress at Fort Hays State. Two handouts. One is I'm gonna take you to the goal 2 one first. I'm not sure which one was on top. It says goal 2 at the top.
It was on top.
Okay. This is a handout that we're using internally at Fort Hays State University, but I thought it would be helpful for you to see it today. Goal student success has been part of our strategic plan for the university over the last 5 years of the strategic plan for the institution. And we had so many things happening around student success that the university was starting to say, how does this dovetail all together? I don't understand how NIST fits in with our current existing goal 2 strategies. How does the digital master plan fit in? How do the academic affairs priorities for the institution fit in? How do the student affairs priorities fit in? And so our goal 2 co-chairs, Dr. Andrew Feldstein and Dr. Taylor Criley, put this handout together for our internal folks at the university, but I wanted you to see it. Central to this is the university strategic plan goal 2. However, you can see all of the inputs and supports, whether that be the KBOR strategic plan pillars, our student success committee at Fort Hays, the NIST goals, our NESE engagement indicators, which we used to help us benchmark our goal 2 in student success, to our EAB Edify and Navigate platforms. And you can see the connections here. So my update today was not meant to go through this whole document, but I wanted you just to see this visual aid that I think is helping our campus better understand how all of these things connect together, and it's not feeling like just one more thing being added to plates. If you want to go to the NIST progress handout, which is the second handout, I'm going to really take you to the gray arrows in the middle of the pages or of the page. That's essentially what we're working on per goal for year 2. We 2.5 years ago implemented centralized advising at Fort Hays State University. So we're technically going into our 3rd year now of that, we're in our 3rd year of that centralized advising plan. We feel like it's time though to have that plan evaluated by an external body. And so NACADA is the a global advising network, happens to be housed at Kansas State University. We've hired Nakata to come in this spring to evaluate our current model and make suggestions for improvement. So that evaluation will be happening in January, and we anticipate that that will lead to some really important recommendations and potential changes in our model, advising model at Fort Hays State University. Along with our centralized advising model, 3 years ago, moving to professional advisors, we implemented a faculty mentoring model as part of that. So every student has both a professional advisor as well as a faculty mentor who is connected more to the discipline, who can give internship and career advice. We have a team of faculty right now under Elodie's leadership and Faculty Senate, Dr. Jones, that is working on resources and more training and development opportunities for our faculty mentors. So those are the two main things that I wanted to highlight there. We are also, we did not have EAB Navigate at Fort Hays State, so we're in the middle of that implementation as well, and looking to a fall 2024 kickoff of that program. Moving down into financial aid, goal 2, we are of course utilizing a new multi-channel approach for FAFSA notifications in our campaigns. We just finished our first round of awarding through Workday, which was a huge accomplishment, and getting ready to launch our second aid awarding in Workday. Of course, the simplified FAFSA will change that process, and so our teams there are working hard on that. In terms of use of academic data, you might recall in the spring when I updated the board, someone asked me, what was your biggest learning lesson or something like that, and I said, we don't have access to we don't have the greatest access to our data at Fort Hays State University. And we have the data, it's just hard to pull sometimes. And so along with our EAB Navigate implementation, we also signed a contract with EAB Edify. Edify is essentially a data warehouse that we hope will be able to, it's connecting to Workday so that we have a better ability to pull and have dashboards available for our university community. That will help us better track our DUWI rates and things like that for faculty and advisors, which we're doing manually right now. And then in terms of our fourth goal, strengthening online student support, you'll hear more about the digital master plan from President Mason, I think in the spring. I've already mentioned our EAB and Navigate implementation, which is ongoing right now. And then you might recall last spring that we did one more technical thing that we did in terms of policy is that we now require interim or midterm grades for all of our courses at Fort Hays, not just our on-campus courses, as a benchmark for students and advisors and faculty mentors to help students know in all of their courses how they're doing at midterm time versus just the on-campus courses. So that's a very quick snapshot. I'll have data next time now that I understand the assignment, but happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Yeah, it just reminds me how important it is to have those face-to-face meetings so we can have a common understanding. But this is great information, and so thank you so much for sharing it. Any questions or comments for Jill?
For just one person's opinion, this is Regent Carl Ice. You mentioned the lack of clarity institutionally when you try to communicate with both of them. From my perspective, the playbooks support your goals.
Yes.
So I'm perfectly comfortable, again, only from my perspective, so my colleagues may have a different view, that if you incorporate the playbook into your goal 2, that would be sufficient, I believe.
Yes, and that's what we believed we were doing. We weren't doing a good job of communicating that to the university community and helping them understand how the two fit together.
Well, even for us, you don't have to. Do
Okay.
I don't think, again, I don't know if everybody shares that or not.
I would concur. Yeah, it's not about creating something new. It's really, I think the leadership move that you've made to try to help folks see the connection is really important. So.
And every time we can rely on what you already do, I think that's a great thing.
Do you have a firm grasp on your EAB transition and when that may be in place? Because having that data on a dashboard is going to really help us in these conversations.
It's going slower than we'd like. we hope to have our first, so EAB Edify, they implement via accelerators. That's their term for dashboard. And our first accelerator will be the Course Success Index or Course Equity Index. I can't remember what it's called. And we're hoping that that will be launched in March. So it's taking longer than we would hope.
Kelly, any update on our work with EAB as a system and timeline?
Yes, so we have been working in our office with our contact at EAB. And I think they've been reaching out to all the campuses contacts. So we'll have more information or more interaction with the campuses about trying to implement or gather the data out of the Navigate system, those supporting metric information. And so some of it could be maybe piloted this spring, but really next fall, as both Emporia and Portuguese have mentioned, they're implementing next fall. So those would be really the first time that we'd be able to gather that information from the universities. But yes, progress forward.
One step at a time.
More to come, yes.
Yeah, thank you very much. Any other comments or questions for Jill?
Regent
Please.
Lane, this is Alicia Johnson. I would just like to say that I really do like your map. And I think that it does show for people that, don't have the overall view sometimes because they're so focused on what they do within their departments that I like this this is the umbrella. It all easily fits under here. And we're doing the same work, but I agree sometimes that can be a little bit hard to communicate, but this is cool. And I like the supports idea of that. Good work.
You might want to be sure and note in the minutes that it's cool.
I'm a 70s person.
I know.
Party on.
I didn't. That's good. All right, thank you. Very good. Now we're ready for K-State. Dr. Lane, are you presenting? Okay, welcome.
I saw that Provost Tabor was listed on the agenda, so unfortunately, rather than the tallest administrator at K-State, you got the shortest administrator at K-State.
Apparently he was waiting in the hall
He's waiting.
for his name to come up, so.
So I greatly appreciate the opportunity to share with the Regents progress made on our NIST work. As you might recall from our last report, our NIST work operates under the auspices of our Strategic Enrollment Management Initiative, which I have the honor of co-chairing with Provost Tabor. I don't know, is our presentation, do you have that on in front of you? Great, perfect, okay, great. So this is directly connected to the work that we are doing with our Next Generation Land-Grant University Strategic Plan. Strengthening our undergraduate retention efforts and improving student success continues to be a key strategy for our strategic enrollment management efforts at K-State. And this intentional effort, I think, has resulted in positive outcomes, which are important to highlight. Our overall retention rate of 87.9, our 6-year graduation rate of 71.1% are the highest in the state of Kansas. And our K-State Student Success Playbook Initiative, which we've renamed our NIST work on our campus to have our campus community connect with this effort, plays a critical role in helping our campus achieve our 2030 goals that you can see on the slide there of getting to 92% first to second year retention rate, 55% 4-year graduation rate, and 75% 6-year graduation rate. You can see the difference that exists between our current state right now of 87.9 first to second year retention rate, 51.8 4-year graduation rate, and 71.1 6-year graduation rate. So we've got some continued work to do. Proud of the results, but we know we've got work to do. Moving forward in looking at the KBOR Pillar 1 baseline data, KBOR has identified several student success metrics to align with EAB implementation, and our team has begun collecting baseline data for those metrics. One of the metrics is the number of students participating with centralized advisors. I think it's important to note that our K-State advising model represents a hybrid approach where we have some directly centralized advising, such as our pre-professional advising center, and also advising that exists within our academic colleges that can occur with a professional advisor or a primary role advisor or a faculty member who has advising as their responsibilities. And I'll discuss this approach a more in just a few moments. I do want to share with you that we are able to track those numbers in that we have for advisor type 9,789 undergraduate students met with a primary role advisor, 5,285, this is for academic year 22-23, 5,285 undergraduate students met with a faculty advisor. In terms of students accessing support services, that is a great value of Navigate. We can track when those appointments are occurring within Navigate. And so we looked at Academic Achievement Center and tutoring appointments. During this 22-23 academic year, we had 1,342 students that took advantage of those services with 4,414 appointments. And then we can also look at all non-advising offices on our campuses. So that could be PowerCat Financial or some other student support area. We were able to track 3,649 unique students accessing those services, 7,885 appointments. So we'll continue to monitor that metric very closely and hoping to see those increase. We are able to track our courses with high number of students falling behind. Our DFW rates, we've identified the top 20 DFW courses, and those percentages range from 31% to 13%. So of course, our next step is identifying strategies to reduce those percentages. For example, we've developed a dashboard that takes a look at what courses are when they're taken during the same semester and what the propensity might be for an increased DFW rate based upon that course sequencing. And so how that might impact advising that we're able to do with our students. So that's how we're taking a look at making action out of the data that we have. On the next slide, you'll see students retained relative to those flagged in early alert systems. We replaced our midterm grade reports in the fall of 2019 with EAV progress reports. It's part of our early alert initiative, which we conduct at week 5 of the fall and spring semesters. And we've been averaging about 15,000 students in each cycle with an average of 2,200 students that are flagged at risk of failing. We currently have a 73.1 faculty participation rate, which it continues to increase from when we started in fall of 2020 with that participation rate at 52.9%. So we're seeing nice progress in that. Still not where we want to be yet. As this slide shows, from the spring 2023 cohort, out of the 13,865 students we received a progress report for last spring, we lost 1,016 of those students, or 7.3%. And so out of that 1,016 students, 401 were identified as at risk and 615 were identified as not at risk. So we're going to be digging deeper into this data to learn more about the characteristics of those students who were not retained, yet who were not identified as at risk in the progress report process. So again, using data to determine action. We've made some structural changes this past fall, supporting standardized advising experience. I talked about our hybrid approach. So how do we leverage the best of advising that can occur centrally, and also in a distributed model, how do we leverage the best that can occur within our colleges? And so we've made some structural changes that I think help with that model. We have a new division of academic success and student affairs that was stood up in October. My position is the Vice President for Academic Success and Student Affairs, where we have brought together our traditional student life areas, our academic support areas, our student success areas, and making sure that those folks are talking with each other and developing strategies to holistically serve our students and the advising community. We have an inaugural executive director for academic advising that just started just a couple months ago. We are expecting an inaugural AVP for academic and career engagement starting in January. We're excited about him coming to join us. We've restructured and newly charged our University Advising Committee to create a more standardized approach for academic advising on our campus in terms of training and professional development and communication. And our K-State Student Success Playbook team and sub-teams are meeting regularly to look at all of this data, to look at our playbook initiatives, and making sure that we're making progress and reporting that progress out to the campus community. I'll wrap up by sharing initiatives for that's occurred this past fall and this current spring. First one focuses on financial aid. We have scaled need-based aid. We've increased first-time undergraduate Pell eligible from 17.7% to 19.7% from fall 22 to fall 23. And we've been putting a lot of work, our Vice Provost for Enrollment Management, Karen Goose, and her team have been working really hard to increase awareness about FAFSA. And so we have a FAFSA completion campaign. The goal is to move our FAFSA completion from 56.8% to 75% in the spring of 2024. They've done a number of initiatives to move that forward. They've developed a FAFSA simplification website. They've emailed all currently enrolled students to inform of changes and encourage FAFSA completion. And they've shared their new estimator. That's been a helpful tool for our students. They've evaluated current students against that new estimator and have emailed students who might be positively or negatively impacted by the proposed methodology. And they've created short financial aid instructional videos to promote FAFSA completion campaigns. Coming up this spring and into the fall, we have 4 initiatives I'd like to highlight for you. The first, again, connected with EAB Navigate. We are introducing this January the hand raise function. We're calling it I Need Help function, and that will look at students able to raise their hand and Navigate to say, hey, I need help financially, or I need academic support, or I need well-being support, or just general support. And we'll be able to connect with that student a resource that will be helpful for them, be able to follow up with the student to make sure that they're getting the help that they need. So we're really excited to see how that goes. We are piloting a Residence Hall peer mentoring program this coming up spring. The program's focus in this pilot is having an experienced student guide a newer student through their academic journey by establishing meaningful connections and enhancing their academic preparedness, their career readiness, and their sense of belonging. The pilot group that we're working with are those students who are coming in new this spring semester. So they kind of enter the plot halfway through the story. And so how do we bring them up to speed and make sure that they're being supported? Excuse me. And then finally, we are developing plans to stand up an exploratory and transition advising center in fall of 2024. This will replace our current open option program that's located within College of Arts and Sciences and connect this advising function more intentionally with our pre-professional advising center and our career center. And we are developing plans to offer a second year experience in the fall of 2024 that will provide our second year students a much more intentional, supportive experience that will increase their persistence to graduation. Thank you for your time today, Regents, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. Any questions for Dr. Lane?
Thank you.
I just want to say how much I appreciate the connection of the action with the data. That's kind of the vision for what we hope to achieve. So thank you for modeling that. Anything, Provost Tabor, that you'd like to add?
This is critical work for our university across the system, student success. And I so appreciate the leadership of Dr. Lane and this newly created vision. I think it's a best practice, and it's been shown in many other universities that when you can bring the support we give to students in their life together with the support that we're giving to them in their academic journey, you're better off. So this division is designed to bring together talking holistic student success.
Thank you. So it sounds like having access to that data through EAB Navigate has been critically important to the work that you're doing. Am I reading
It is,
that right?
Regina, and I think that the challenge that we had is determining how do you make there's a lot of data there. And so how do you make sense of the data and make sure that you are developing action steps for the data? How does it become actionable? And that takes prioritization. It takes, I think, and willingness to try some things, to take some risks with some pilot programs.
Thanks so much for joining us today, and thanks to all 3 universities who started us off with this kind of new evolving process. We really appreciate it. Before we move on to other matters, I want to acknowledge Provost Tabor in the room, and I think most of us know that he is about to step into a new exciting journey that's going to take him to his, I would say, passion in life, to be able to focus full time on his music. So thank you so much for not only your service to K-State, but your service to the entire system of Kansas. We very much appreciate all that you've done and all that we've learned from you. So thank you. Offer you a moment for the floor. Any comments?
Thank you so much, Regent Lane and all the regents. I do want to say what an absolute pleasure has been to spend the last 6 years working at Kansas State University in the system. How that came because of the incredible passion of students that exists at Kansas State University. That was the reason I came from New York to Kansas State University, was to rekindle my own passion for having an impact with students. And I certainly made the right choice. And I've just loved every moment of my, well, not every moment. I've loved the time I spent here. And I can say, a person can have more than one passion, right?
Yes.
So yes, music is certainly a passion, and I'll really enjoy putting out another album and touring and all of that coming up. But I'm still very, very passionate about higher education, which I think is the most impactful and incredible institution for transformation that humanity has invented. Thank you.
Very well said. Thank you so much. All right, now other matters. Sam, qualified admissions.
Yes, so this report starts on page 10 of your agendas. This is a standard report that we are required to give every year to the legislature. And so as part of that, then that process is that we share this information out with BASC before we send this across the street. And it's due in January, so this is perfect timing. The legislature requires that we report on the number of students admitted to the state universities by exception. That is, the students who do not meet the minimum qualified admissions criteria. And for this report, there are 4 categories of students that we look at: resident freshmen, non-resident freshmen, resident transfer, and non-resident transfer. This report covers admission for the year 22-23, so last year. And so we'll start by just quickly going through the requirements for freshmen under the age of 21 for 4 of the state universities: Emporia State, Fort Hays State, Pittsburgh, and Wichita State. The requirement is either a 21 on the ACT or a 2.25 minimum cumulative high school GPA. For K-State, it's very similar, 21 on the ACT or a 3.25 minimum cumulative high school GPA. For KU, it's very similar, but along with the 21 ACT, they require a 2.0 minimum cumulative high school GPA. And then if there is no ACT, the requirement is a 3.25 high school GPA. So again, they're very, very similar requirements. And table 1 shows the number of students admitted by exception. State statute and regulations limit the number of resident freshmen who can be admitted by exception to 10% of the university's total number of freshman students admitted. Not just resident freshmen admitted, but all of the freshmen admitted. And as you can see by table 1, no university exceeded that 10% mark. Then table 2 shows the number of non-resident freshmen exceptions admitted. Regulations indicate that no more than 10% of non-resident freshmen can be admitted by exception. 10% of the total number of non-resident freshmen. So you can admit up to 10% of non-resident freshmen based on the total number of non-resident freshmen admitted. Sorry, I'm getting tongue-tied. I knew I was in this report. So the next category, I didn't tell you the requirements for applicants 21 and older are just the high school diploma or a high school equivalency. So then the next category is transfer, and table 3 shows both resident and non-resident there. Again, let's see, the requirements are at least a 2.0 for 5 of the 6 state universities, a 2.0 on transferable coursework. For KU, it's a 2.5. So just a little bit different there. Again, the state statute limits the number who can be admitted by exception to 10% of the number of students admitted for that category. If you have questions about that, let me know, but I just don't want to get tongue-tied again. So again, nobody exceeded the 10% window there. And we do provide a little additional information for BASC. We have in the last few years, I believe it's tables 4 and 5, show the number of students denied admission, the freshmen and the transfers. And I think the most important thing to take away here is that more students really are admitted by exception than are denied admission for each of these categories. So I don't think that denial for admission is a huge issue, but each of the state universities, I believe, provides information to those students on alternative means of higher education, including community college. So we provide tables 1 through 3 to the legislature, and that concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Sam. Any questions or comments? Thank you. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Carla, update on academic affairs.
Okay, so I feel like I've been given lots of updates, but some exciting news that we, I say that we stole Misty Knox from the legal executive end to replace Tara. Misty was a former counselor at Clifton Clyde, and so she brings that that counselor background to the Apply Kansas, and she already has lots of great ideas. So we welcome Misty, but we're sharing her at the time. So she's up in the System Council President's meeting. We've been working on Math Pathways. We got our website updated yesterday. Amy and Matt Keith worked on that, so I want to thank them for that. And Sam and I were very glad to push the gen ed work that we've been doing so that we can go back to our real jobs. The letters were sent to the universities, and Regent Lane may add some stuff for the what's next, you know, the steps for that. I think I don't like speaking for the board, but I think the vision was to have a very clear, transparent gen ed system that supports students to transfer with ease and to have an effective method for making things affordable. And so how that's going to work is up to our leaders, and I guess we'll hear more from that. Also reverse transfer. We had a meeting on that, and the survey, the universities sent us back some pretty good survey. So are we have another meeting coming up with that? Sam and I have been buried, so some of these meetings have been pushed back a little bit. But that's what we've been working on.
Any questions for Carla, comments? I think the continuous improvement mindset is important for us to think about with our exceptions to the gen ed transfer. So Dr. Flanders is working through some potential tweaks to that for us. One has to do with the idea of prerequisite courses. So Provost, welcome to hear your thoughts about how those should be considered moving forward. We'll put that on the agenda so we can have a more detailed conversation. Thank you very much, Carla. As I mentioned earlier, we asked Carla to remind us on our performance agreements on the future and where we're headed.
Yeah, just take one and pass it
Okay.
down, please. Sorry,
Just
the
wanted
teacher
to-
in me is like trying
Wanted
to
to be sure.
be lazy here.
So this is just really a reminder of what was approved in May, and certainly Regents, if we want to have a more in-depth conversation about it, we can do so. Just let me know how you'd like to move forward. Bring it back on the agenda for full discussion. But for now, Carla, an update.
And I want to thank Sam Christie-Dangermond for the performance agreements. I did the 2-year performance agreements for years, and then they moved it over to Sam's position. So Sam does all of these, and it is hectic. It's a lot of detail. It's a lot of back and forth. And if you've heard the institutions, they acknowledge Sam and her patients and her work that she does these. But out with the old and in with the new. We're very excited, and I know there's no one more excited than Sam is about our new performance agreement. So this is what it looks like. And our math pathways, I just gave a report to the System Council presidents. The math pathways are very critical in this, and you know, transitioning to the interim, this document has helped me the most keep track of all of the plates that we have spinning. And these are going to be pretty important, and even the timeline on July 1st. That's when the new performance agreements are in, and it's very project-based of what are you doing at your institution. So that's on our website. We connected it to the Math Pathways because Math Pathways is so critical part of this. But there's a lot of information here, but the timeline is there. So if you have any questions, Sam's probably a better person to answer them, but this is the overview.
So Sam or Carla, would you want to hit some of the high points that might be, just to say out loud to remind us, timelines and process?
You bet. So earlier in the spring, we're hoping to start reconvening some of the academic disciplines to talk about which math courses they want to require for their programs as the gateway or the gen ed math. We're also hoping to convene the group that we have identified to work on course placement measures for math placement. Hoping to do that in the spring as well. English is on here. We may get to that later in the spring. It just kind of depends on how we do with staffing over time. I had to sneak that in. And so really for the next semester, those are going to be the two biggest focuses, the math placement and the math disciplines. As you can see on this also, I would like to say July 1st, that first report is due. And that report for that first year really is all about planning for the next year. Identifying teams to do the work, committing to do the work, letting us know who is going to be doing the work. And then the final piece is the academic degree maps. So institutions are to submit links to all of their academic degree maps by July 1st that incorporate the new gen ed.
So our first big step really is, after convening, is each institution developing a plan, submitting the plan, and the maps, right? I know that members may want to take more time in reviewing this and reminding us what's been passed, and that we think about, are there, as we move forward, are there things we could do to strengthen? But for today, any questions that you might have? I think this is another item that we might want to bring back on the agenda for a more deep dive, so we are just reminded of the policy that's in place.
I'm certainly aligned with that. And I think especially given we've just gone through the, as you said, the last of the system we knew needed to be enhanced, that looking at that with that prism, I think is also helpful.
Very good. So Carla, if we could talk about when we could put that back on the agenda for a deeper dive, that would be great. Thank you both so much. And Sam, I didn't mean to leave you out of that, but I see Carla taking notes. So, we certainly will include you. All right, so for my new favorite portion of our agenda, good news on campus. Last time we met face to face, I left the meeting feeling inspired, and I hope that you all did too. So we want to give each university a chance to share up to 2 items. I know there are a lot of great things happening on our campuses, so pick 2 to share today. And we're going to begin with Provost Tabor. I know, but you'll just have to find 2. Provost Tabor, offer you the floor first.
Thank you, and I'm gonna stick to 1. So I wanted to let the regents know about a grant that was received by our College of Education to diversify teacher workforce. It's a very important grant, $3.9 million, a federal grant from the Office of Elementary and Secondary Education. This is a grant that will provide an opportunity for tailored pathways for pre-service teacher candidates. That's designed to increase their capacity for culturally responsive pedagogy, as well as English for speakers of other languages certification. So we're very excited about this. We think it will continue to serve some of the needs that we have for teachers.
Thank you so much.
Regent Lane, if
Yes.
I may, that
Yes.
is in collaboration with our school
I
district,
see.
so
Oh.
we're really excited to
I
get
should
that
have said
started.
that.
Yeah, that's good. Celebrate that.
Probably should have negotiated this transfer of your second one to your college.
What's it worth to you guys?
I'll take a half.
Speaking, Provost Bicklemeyer, since you're right there, you're up.
I will take a half. First one is the Kansas Geological Survey recently published a report about that assesses the current conditions and trends in water levels and groundwater use in the High Plains Aquifer, which is the state's most economically important groundwater resource. And the report summarizes current regional conditions of the aquifer and evaluates the progress towards sustaining and prolonging the life of this important resource. While it showcases the progress that we've made in areas that have adopted voluntary water conservation measures to reduce groundwater pumping and extend the life of the aquifer. So that is one excellent place where our education research come together. Secondly, I want to note that KU's aerospace engineering students recently collected several awards at the International Design Competition. Undergraduates in aerospace engineering finished first and third in the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics undergraduate individual design competition for their designs of efficient aircraft that can land or take off using either land or water. And my quick half is that we have a student who's a finalist for a Rhodes Scholarship.
Cool.
Snuck one in.
I'm glad you snuck that in. That's great. Wonderful. Shirley?
Thank you, and I'll share that Wichita State University is the sole partner for Kansas State Department of Education's Registered Apprentice Program this year. KSDE Registered Teacher Apprentice Program was recognized as the 2023 Outstanding New Program by the Kansas Department of Commerce. So we're very proud to be partnering with KSDE on that. And then just a quick shout out to our financial aid office. Last year we awarded over $110 million in financial aid. 30 million of that was need-based aid, and so far this fall we are on track to exceed that level of award. So,
Oh, very exciting. Thank you. Jill?
I've been trying to figure out how to narrow my list, but I have. Traditions are big this time of year for all of us. And so I want to share two traditions that are important to Fort Hays State University that we've had over the last couple of weeks happen. In early December, our Applied Tech Department hosted its 34th annual Teaming Up for Tots toy making event. So for 34 years, students in that program have designed a wooden toy, the specs, the jigs, all of that for this toy. And then they mass produce it. I say mass, it's about 150 toys that they produce, and the community comes in and helps sand the toys and produce the toys and put them together. And then those toys are donated back to families in the community who have needs this time of year. This year, the toy was a riverboat. And it's just so when you're there in April, I think you'll probably get to just see a display of all 34 toys over the years. But that's a really cool tradition that continues at Fort Hays, and it's neat that the students get to play such a part of that. The other tradition that I want to celebrate today is our 37th annual cathedral concert at the Cathedral of the Plains in Victoria, Kansas. If you've even driven by, you've seen it from the interstate. It's a beautiful cathedral, and had our 37th annual Christmas holiday concert there this last weekend. The cathedral is always full. You have to get there about an hour ahead of time to get a seat. And it's performances by our students, by local high schools, students, by faculty at Fort Hays. And it's just a beautiful way to kind of celebrate the end of the semester. So neat traditions, and I hope sometime some of you get to be a part of those.
Thank you so much for sharing both of those. Howard?
One thing, it's hard to get down to two.
I know,
I don't like
I
the new
know.
rule. Get that down,
So Howard, you could do one with three parts or
that's-
something.
well,
Don't help him out.
You know,
The first thing I want to just share is actually a group of our therapeutic and recreation students in exercise science. They have reached out to the community and they've done some work with older adult fitness, and they've come in and done measurements and done fitness tests, and they help them understand where they're at in their role in fitness. And they had a panel last week where the community came in, they heard the results, saw what they were doing. And so that lab is reaching out and helping people that want to know where they're at and what they might have with health needs. So I think that's a very positive thing. But in competition with Jill, not that we're in competition, I think one of our things is actually our annual Holly Jolly Tubas. In the music, I mean, we look at those things. I see Jabin. This is the time of year that we connect with community, and I say that kind of in a funny or flippant way, but the reality is we're extensions of our communities. So whether it's the concerts we do, we're out in school buildings, we're doing things on campus. That's a huge engagement. That's really something to celebrate because we have connected. And I know. I'm going to say this because Jabin was one of our singers, our SGA president, at our recent community luncheon for the holidays. So I'll stop there.
We have time on our agenda. Put you on the spot. Just kidding.
No.
Just kidding. I wouldn't do that to you. Thank you. It's a wonderful time of year, and it's great to be able to focus on those kinds of things. So, Brent, you were our leadoff batter, and now you're our cleanup batter.
All right. Well, a couple of things. One, I'll just chime in along with Jill and Howard. This is a great time of year where, you know, there's an abundance of concerts and activities of end of year banquets and celebrations. And it really, you know, renews my energy and enthusiasm to be a part of that. And just like Jill and Howard, getting an opportunity to get out there and see our students performing for our community and our campus to standing room only crowds this time of year is wonderful. So it's a great time of year. I guess the other item I'll mention is we just had a celebration and a ribbon cutting in our new esports arena on campus. Esports is a relatively new initiative at Emporia State University, but it has been unveiled with a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of support. And to see the students flocking to that new arena and get engaged and active, literally from majors across the entire campus, has been phenomenal and really exciting to see.
Thank you so much. Appreciate
you.
those celebrations. Appreciate the wonderful work that's happening across our universities. You really are transforming lives. So thank you for participating in this agenda item. Comments from other regents? No, just feel good. Just feel good. Okay, our next BASC meeting is scheduled for January the 2nd. Is there any other business to come before us this morning?
I just want to give a warm send off to Amy, even
Yep.
though she's leaving us. We talked about this at the last meeting, but we appreciate the work that she's done for BASC, and she's headed to the Department of Labor. So
Thank
that
you,
may have been
Carla.
discussed before I came, but I just.
We
wanna make
had an
sure.
opportunity, but
Okay.
you can't say thank you enough.
All right,
So
all
I
right.
appreciate it. All right, seeing no other business, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Madam Chair.